Listen and listen carefully, because something about this exact moment is not ordinary. It is not random. It is not something you just clicked on out of curiosity. No, this is something deeper, something intentional, something that has been orchestrated beyond what your natural mind can fully understand right now. There was a moment, just seconds ago, where you almost skipped this. You almost ignored it. You almost told yourself, "I'll come back to it later." But something inside you didn't let you move on. Something pulled you back. Something whispered, "Wait, open this." And now you're here. That feeling, that hesitation followed by a pull, that was not coincidence. That was divine interruption. Because heaven has a way of stepping into your routine at the exact second you need it most. Not when you feel ready, but when your spirit is aligned to receive. And right now, whether you realize it or not, you are standing in one of those moments. March 2nd, 2026. This is not just another date on a calendar. This is a checkpoint in your life that was marked long before today ever arrived. A moment where something pending, something delayed, something you have prayed for, cried for, waited for, is now standing at the edge of manifestation. And here's what makes this even more intense: you didn't even realize how close it was. You've been going about your days, carrying on, dealing with your responsibilities, pushing through your struggles, trying to stay strong even when things didn't make sense. You've had moments where you questioned everything. Moments where you wondered if God was still listening. Moments where you felt like your prayers were just echoing into silence. But what if I told you those prayers were never ignored? What if I told you every tear, every whisper, every late-night conversation you had with God was being recorded in heaven? And not just recorded, but answered. You see, there is something most people don't understand about divine timing. When God prepares a miracle, He does not rush it. He aligns it. He positions it. He builds it in layers, unseen, unnoticed, until the exact moment it is ready to be released. And that's where you are right now, standing at the edge of something that has already been approved in the spiritual realm but is just now about to break into your reality. This is why you feel different lately. You may not have been able to explain it, but something has been shifting inside you. Maybe it felt like restlessness. Maybe it felt like pressure. Maybe it felt like confusion or emotional heaviness. Or maybe, just maybe, it felt like something was about to happen, but you couldn't quite put your finger on it. That's because something is about to happen, and heaven needed to get your attention before it arrives. Because here's the truth most people miss: not every miracle is received automatically. Some miracles require awareness. Some require alignment. Some require you to be spiritually awake enough to recognize what God is placing in your hands. And that is why this message feels urgent. Not because something bad is coming, but because something powerful is ready. And you cannot afford to miss it. Right now, there is a window open over your life. A narrow, sacred window where divine movement is accelerating. Where things that were stuck are about to shift. Where doors that refuse to open are suddenly unlocking. Where answers you've been waiting for are beginning to form. But here's the part that may surprise you: this moment almost passed you by. If you had scrolled, if you had ignored that inner pull, if you had said, "Not now," you might have missed the very message that was meant to prepare you for what's about to unfold. That's how subtle divine moments can be. They don't always come with loud announcements. Sometimes they come quietly disguised as something simple, something easy to overlook. But not this time. Because this time, heaven made sure you stopped. This time, heaven made sure you opened this. This time, Heaven made sure you heard this. And now, there is no confusion. You were chosen to hear this right now at this exact second for a reason. Because your pending miracle is not just coming, it is ready. And everything that happens from this moment forward will begin to make sense in ways you never expected. So stay here. Stay focused. Stay open. Because what you're about to hear next will reveal exactly what has been prepared for you and why this moment could change everything. Type "I am ready" in the comments if you feel this message speaking directly to you. Blessing code 2026 is now activated around your life. There is something you need to understand right now, and it may shift the way you see everything that has been happening in your life lately. This is not the first time heaven has tried to reach you. This is not the first moment where a message like this crossed your path. This is not the first whisper, the first nudge, the first feeling that something deeper was trying to get your attention. No, this has been happening for a while now, quietly, patiently, consistently. Think back for a moment. There were times when you felt an unexplained pull to pause, to reflect, to listen. Times when something inside you said, "Slow down, something is not right," or "Pay attention, something is shifting." There were moments when you felt guided to certain thoughts, certain decisions, even certain content that felt strangely specific to your situation. And yet, you brushed it off. You told yourself it was just coincidence. You told yourself it was just your imagination. You told yourself you were overthinking. But what if you weren't? What if those moments were actually the voice of God, gently trying to guide you before this very day arrived? You see, God does not always speak in loud, undeniable ways. He does not always interrupt your life with thunder or dramatic signs. More often than not, His voice comes quietly, subtly, almost like a thought that doesn't quite feel like your own. A feeling that lingers longer than it should. A sense of knowing that you cannot fully explain but cannot ignore either. And the truth is, you almost missed it again. Even now, before opening this, there was hesitation. There was that split second where you questioned whether to engage or move on. That moment matters more than you realize. Because that is exactly how the enemy works, not always through chaos or fear, but through distraction, through delay, through convincing you that what matters can wait just a little longer. But something inside you resisted that. Something inside you said, "No, this matters. Open it." That voice was not random. That was divine insistence. Because heaven has been trying to get your attention more urgently than ever before. Not because something is wrong, but because something is ready. And when something is ready in the spiritual realm, God begins to call your name more clearly, more persistently, more directly. That is what is happening now. You may have noticed that certain patterns in your life have been repeating. Certain thoughts returning. Certain emotions surfacing again and again. It may have felt frustrating, confusing, even exhausting at times. But those repetitions were not meaningless. They were signals. Signals that something unfinished was being brought back into your awareness for a reason. God was preparing your focus. Because before a miracle arrives, there is always a moment of alignment. A moment where your attention is redirected, where your awareness sharpens, where your spirit begins to wake up to something it previously overlooked. That is the moment you are in right now. And here is what makes this even more powerful. The voice calling you is not distant. It is not vague. It is personal. This is not a general message meant for everyone. This is a call that feels specific because it is specific. It speaks to your situation, your thoughts, your questions, your struggles, your hopes. It reaches into the exact place where you have been waiting for clarity and says, "Now listen." because something has changed you. The difference between all those previous nudges and this moment is simple but powerful. Before, you were being guided. Now, you are being summoned. There is a shift from gentle direction to urgent invitation. A shift from quiet hints to clear instruction. And that shift only happens when the timing is critical. This is that time. Heaven is not just trying to get your attention anymore. Heaven has your attention. And now, it is about what you do with it. Because every time God calls, there is a response required. Not a perfect response. Not a complicated response. But a willing one. A moment where you choose to stay present instead of drifting away. A moment where you choose to listen instead of dismissing. A moment where you choose to believe that maybe, just maybe, this is not random at all. And you have already made that choice by staying here. But there is still something deeper unfolding. Because when God calls your name like this, it is never just to inform you. It is to prepare you, to position you, to align you with something that is already in motion. And right now, something is in motion for you. Something that required your attention at this exact time. Something that could not wait any longer. Something that needed you to hear this before it arrives. That is why the voice feels stronger. That is why the message feels more direct. That is why there is a sense of urgency surrounding this moment. Because you are no longer being gently guided. You are being called forward. And what comes next will reveal exactly why this call could not be delayed any longer and what has already been set in place for you, waiting just beyond this moment. Type "I am listening" in the comments if you feel the call reaching you right now. Blessing code 3030 is now activated over your path. There is something you have been waiting for, and even if you cannot fully name it, your spirit knows exactly what it is. It is that one thing that has lingered in your prayers longer than the others. That one request you kept returning to, even when you tried to move on. That one situation that never quite left your heart, no matter how much time passed. You may have told yourself to be patient. You may have told yourself to let go. You may have even convinced yourself that it might never happen. But deep down, there has always been a quiet knowing that something was still pending. And now, that pending season is coming to an end. Because what you thought was delayed was actually being prepared. Here is a difference between something being withheld and something being built. When something is withheld, it feels distant, unreachable, uncertain. But when something is being built, it is active, intentional, and already in motion, even if you cannot yet see the evidence. What you have been experiencing is not denial. It is construction. It is divine preparation happening beyond your physical awareness. While you were waiting, heaven was working. While you were questioning, heaven was aligning. While you were wondering if it would ever come together, God was putting every piece into place with precision that only He can orchestrate. And here is what makes this moment so powerful. Your miracle is not being considered anymore. It is not being discussed. It is not being evaluated. It has already been approved. That is why there is urgency now. Because there comes a moment when what has been prepared in the spiritual realm begins to move toward the natural realm. A moment where what was unseen begins to take form. A moment where what was promised begins to appear. And when that moment arrives, everything accelerates. You are stepping into that acceleration. This is why things have felt intense lately. This is why your emotions may have been shifting unexpectedly. This is why situations around you may have seemed unstable or unclear. It is not because things are falling apart. It is because things are rearranging. It is because what no longer aligns with your next season is being moved out of the way. Because your miracle requires space. It requires alignment. It requires that certain doors close so that the right one can finally open, and that opening is closer than you think. There is something already set in motion with your name attached to it. A decision, a message, an opportunity, a breakthrough, something tangible, something real, that has been held back until the exact moment you were ready to receive it. Not just ready in desire, but ready in alignment, ready in awareness, ready in spirit. Because receiving a miracle is not just about wanting it. It is about recognizing it when it arrives. And many people miss their moment not because it never came, but because they did not recognize it in the form it arrived in. That will not be your story, because this message is positioning you to see clearly. What is coming may not look exactly how you imagined it. It may not arrive in the way you expected. It may not follow the timeline you had in mind. But it will carry something undeniable, a sense of confirmation deep within you, a knowing that says, this is it. This is what I have been waiting for. And when that moment comes, everything will begin to make sense. The delays will make sense. The confusion will make sense. The waiting will make sense. Because you will realize that if it had come earlier, it would not have aligned the way it is about to now. That is the precision of divine timing. Nothing wasted. Nothing random. Everything intentional. And now, the final phase of preparation is happening within you. Your awareness is sharpening. Your sensitivity is increasing. Your ability to discern what is right for you and what is not is becoming clearer than ever before. That is not accidental. That is activation. Because when your miracle arrives, you will not hesitate. You will not question. You will not doubt. You will recognize it, receive it, and step into it with confidence. This is why you were called to this moment. Not just to hear that something is coming, but to understand that it is already ready, already formed, already assigned, already moving toward you. And the only thing left now is your readiness to receive it fully. So stay alert. Stay grounded. Stay open. Because what has been prepared in the unseen is about to reveal itself in the seen. And when it does, it will not feel like coincidence. It will feel like confirmation. Type I receive IT in the comments if you are ready for what has already been prepared for you. Blessing code 7272 is now activated around your breakthrough. As this truth settles into your spirit, understand this: what you have just received is not only for you. It is meant to flow through you. There are others standing on the edge of their own breakthrough, waiting for a light like this to reach them. When you choose to sow into this mission through Super Thanks or the PayPal link in the description, you are not supporting a message, you are releasing seeds into a harvest of souls. The Lord says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over." And this is not just a verse, it is a living promise over your obedience. I feel this strongly, and I say it as a call, not a suggestion. I step forward now in faith, because I know this moment matters. Your giving becomes oil that keeps this flame burning, a river that carries this word to someone who is about to give up. Do not delay this act of obedience. Sow now, and watch how heaven responds to you in ways you cannot predict. There is a truth you must face in this moment, and it may feel uncomfortable, but it is necessary for what is about to unfold in your life. Not every opportunity waits. Not every divine moment repeats itself in the same way, and not every calling can be postponed without consequence. There are moments in life that carry a weight, a timing, a precision that cannot simply be rescheduled. And this is one of those moments. You see, delay does not always look like rejection. Sometimes it looks harmless. Sometimes it feels like I'll come back to this later, or I'll deal with this when I have more clarity, or even, this can wait. But what you must understand is that spiritual delay is one of the most subtle ways people miss what was meant for them. Not because it was taken away, but because it was not met at the right time. There is a window open over your life right now, and it is not indefinite. It is not permanent. It is a moving moment, a living opportunity, something that is aligned with a specific timing that heaven has already set. And when that window opens, it requires awareness. It requires presence. It requires you to respond, not later, but now. Because when something is ready in the spirit, it does not wait for convenience. It moves. And if you are not aligned when it moves, you risk stepping out of sync with what was meant to flow into your life naturally. This is not meant to create fear within you. This is meant to awaken you. Because you have already experienced this before, even if you did not recognize it at the time. There were opportunities you almost stepped into, but something held you back. There were moments where you felt you should act, but you hesitated. There were decisions that lingered too long, and by the time you returned to them, the energy had shifted. The door was no longer the same. That is what delay does. It changes alignment. And alignment is everything when it comes to receiving what has been prepared for you. Right now, there is movement happening. Quiet, precise, intentional movement. Conversations you are not aware of yet. Decisions being made in places you have not seen. Paths being adjusted, outcomes being finalized, doors being positioned to open at exactly the right time. And all of it is connected to your readiness to respond. Because when your miracle arrives, it will not announce itself loudly. It will not always come with clear labels or obvious signs. Sometimes it arrives disguised as a simple opportunity, a conversation, a sudden shift, a small decision that carries much greater weight than it appears. And if you are distracted, if you are hesitant, if you are not fully present, you may overlook it. That is the danger of delay. Not that your miracle disappears, but that you fail to recognize it when it stands in front of you. There are people who have prayed for years, only to miss their moment because they were waiting for something that looked different. Something bigger, something clearer, something easier to accept. And while they waited for perfection, the real opportunity passed quietly, unnoticed. That will not be your story. But you must understand the seriousness of this moment. Because what is coming requires you to be awake. It requires you to trust what you feel, even if it does not fully make sense yet. It requires you to move when prompted, even if you do not have every answer. It requires you to recognize that sometimes the first step is all that is revealed, and the rest unfolds only after you take it. This is where many hesitate. They wait for complete certainty. They wait for everything to feel comfortable. They wait for a guarantee. But divine movement does not operate that way. It requires faith in motion. It requires a willingness to step forward even when the full picture is not visible yet. And that is exactly what you are being called into right now. Not later. Not when it feels easier. Now. Because the longer you delay, the more you risk disconnecting from the flow that is already moving toward you. And once that flow shifts, it does not always return in the same form. This is why this message feels urgent. Not because something is being taken from you, but because something is being offered to you. And offers require acceptance. They require recognition. They require action. So do not treat this moment casually. Do not brush it aside. Do not tell yourself you will come back to it later. Because this is not just information you are hearing. This is alignment taking place. This is preparation happening in real time. This is your moment to respond. And the way you respond now will determine how smoothly what is already prepared for you enters your life. So stay aware, stay present, stay ready, because what is approaching you does not need delay. It needs your agreement. Type "I do not delay" in the comments if you are ready to move in alignment without hesitation. Blessing code 9090 is now activated over your timing and decisions. There is something deeper you must understand about your journey, something that will finally bring clarity to the delays, the confusion, and the moments where everything seemed to slow down for no clear reason. Because what you have experienced was never random. It was never meaningless. And it was never simply bad timing. There has been a hidden battle surrounding your life, one that you could feel but not fully explain. You sensed it in the way things almost worked out, but didn't. You noticed it in the way opportunities came close, then suddenly shifted. You felt it in the way your energy would rise with hope, only to be met with unexpected resistance. And at times, it made you question everything. It made you wonder if you were on the right path. It made you question whether what you were hoping for was ever truly meant for you. But now, the truth is being revealed. What you were facing was not just delay, it was resistance. Because every time something significant is prepared for your life, there is always opposition that tries to slow it down, distract you, or pull you out of alignment before it arrives. Not because it can stop what is meant for you, but because it can influence how and when you receive it. And that is exactly what has been happening. This was not a battle you could see with your eyes. It was not something that showed up as obvious obstacles all the time. Instead, it came quietly, subtly, through distractions, doubts, emotional weight, and moments of uncertainty that caused you to hesitate when you should have moved forward. There were times when you felt tired without reason, times when your focus drifted, even when you wanted to stay on track, times when small issues felt heavier than they should have, times when you questioned your own instincts, even when they were guiding you correctly. That was not weakness. That was interference. Because when something valuable is being prepared for you, the goal is not always to block it completely. Sometimes the goal is simply to delay you long enough so that you arrive out of alignment. To make you second-guess your timing. To make you hesitate just enough that you miss the moment when everything lines up. But here is what you need to hear now that strategy has failed. Because despite everything, you are still here. Despite the distractions, you stayed connected. Despite the doubts, you continued searching. Despite the delays, you did not give up completely. And that persistence, that quiet refusal to walk away is exactly what has brought you into this moment now. Because there comes a point where the delay can no longer continue. There comes a point where what hath been prepared must move forward, regardless of resistance. There comes a point where the timing shifts from waiting to release. And that is where you are now. This is why everything feels different. This is why the message feels stronger. This is why the sense of urgency is no longer subtle, but direct. Because the hidden battle that was slowing things down is losing its influence over your path. What once caused confusion is beginning to clear. What once created hesitation is being replaced with clarity. What once felt uncertain is now becoming steady. And this is not accidental. This is the result of alignment finally overcoming resistance. But there is one more thing you must understand, because it is critical for what comes next. The delay you experienced was not just about what was happening around you. It was also about what was being built within you. Because while external circumstances were being aligned, something inside you was also being prepared. Your awareness, your discernment, your ability to recognize what is right for you and what is not. your ability to move without needing constant confirmation from others. That internal preparation was necessary, because if everything had arrived earlier, you may not have recognized it correctly. You may have accepted something that looked similar but was not truly aligned. You may have moved it too quickly without understanding the full value of what was being placed in front of you. But now you are different. Now you see more clearly. Now you feel more deeply. Now you recognize what aligns with you and what does not. And that is why the timing is no longer delayed. Because the battle that once slowed you down has completed its purpose. It refined you. It strengthened you. It sharpened your awareness. And now, it is ending. So do not look back at the delay with frustration. Do not see it as lost time. Do not see it as something that held you back. Because in reality, it positioned you perfectly for this moment. A moment where everything that was being prepared both around you and within you is finally coming together. And from this point forward, things will not move the same way they did before. They will move with clarity. They will move with purpose. They will move with alignment. Because the hidden battle is no longer controlling the pace of your life. You are. And what comes next will reveal why everything had to happen exactly the way it did. Type "I trust the timing" in the comments if you understand that your delay was part of your preparation. Blessing code 5151 is now activated over your breakthrough path. There are dates that pass like any other, blending into the routine of life, carrying no noticeable weight beyond the ordinary flow of time. And then there are dates like this one. Dates that are not random, not ordinary, not forgettable. Dates that are marked, appointed, and aligned with something far greater than what can be seen on the surface. March 2nd, 2026 is not just a day on your calendar. It is a moment that has been set apart long before you ever became aware of it. You may not have felt anything special when this day began. It may have started like any other, with the same responsibilities, the same thoughts, the same rhythm you are used to. But what you must understand is this: divine timing does not always announce itself at the start. Sometimes it unfolds quietly, building momentum beneath the surface until the exact moment you are meant to recognize it. And this is that moment. Because this date carries alignment. Not coincidence, not chance, but alignment. There are things that have been moving behind the scenes, slowly coming together, adjusting, shifting, and positioning themselves so that everything intersects at this exact point in time. Conversations that had to happen. Decisions that had to be made. Delays that had to occur. Paths that had to change direction. All of it hath been leading to this moment, even if you could not see how it connected before. That is the nature of divine orchestration. It does not always make sense while you are inside of it. It only becomes clear when everything finally aligns. And now, alignment is happening. March 2nd represents a turning point, not because of something external alone, but because of what is converging around you right now. There is a crossing taking place between what has been prepared and your awareness of it. A moment where what was once hidden begins to reveal itself, not all at once, but in ways that you will start to notice from this point forward. You may begin to sense it first before you see it. A shift in your energy, a clarity in your thoughts, a sudden understanding of something that previously confused you, a feeling that something is different, even if you cannot immediately explain why. That is how alignment begins to reveal itself. Because when a moment like this arrives, it does not always come with loud announcements. It comes with subtle confirmations that build until the full picture becomes undeniable. And what makes this day even more significant is that it is not just about what is happening around you, but what is happening within you. because you are not the same person you were before. You have been shaped by everything that led up to this point. The delays you experienced, the challenges you faced, the moments where you had to hold on without knowing what was coming next. All of that has refined your awareness and strengthened your ability to recognize what matters when it finally appears. The preparation was necessary, because this moment requires recognition. It requires you to be present enough to see what is unfolding. It requires you to trust what you feel, even if it does not immediately match what you expected. And it requires you to understand that this is not just another day you will move past without consequence. This is a moment that carries impact. A moment where something shifts from potential to reality. A moment where what has been building begins to move into your life in a way that cannot be reversed. This is why there has been urgency surrounding this date. Not because something is being forced upon you, but because something is ready to meet you here. And if you are aware, if you are present, if you are aligned, you will step into it naturally. But if you are distracted, if you are disconnected, if you treat this moment like any other, you risk missing the significance of what is happening right in front of you. That is why you were guided here. That is why this message reached you at this exact time. Because awareness changes everything. Once you recognize that this moment matters, you begin to see differently. You begin to notice what you would have overlooked. You begin to respond instead of hesitating. You begin to move with the flow instead of resisting it. And that is where everything begins to shift. Because March 2nd is not just a date. It is a doorway. A point where what has been prepared meets your readiness to receive it. A moment where the waiting phase begins to close, and the receiving phase begins to open. And from this point forward, you will begin to see the evidence of that shift in ways that will confirm everything you are hearing right now. So stay aware, stay grounded, stay present in this moment, because what is unfolding today is not ordinary. It is intentional. It is aligned. And it is leading you directly into what has been waiting for you. Type "I step into this moment" in the comments if you are ready to recognize and receive what this day carries for you. Blessing code 3202 is now activated over your divine timing. Something has already started to move, and whether you fully recognize it yet or not, you are no longer standing in the same place you were before this moment began. The shift is not coming later. It is not something distant that you have to keep waiting for. It is already happening, quietly, but powerfully, unfolding in ways that you are just beginning to perceive. This is where many people misunderstand divine movement. They expect a sudden, overwhelming change, something loud and undeniable that forces them to notice it immediately. But more often than not, the real shift begins subtly. It begins internally before it manifests externally. It begins as a change in perception before it becomes a change in circumstance. And that is exactly what you are stepping into right now. You may begin to notice that your thoughts are becoming clearer. Situations that once felt confusing are starting to make more sense. Questions that once lingered without answers are beginning to settle. Not because everything hath been explained, but because something inside you now understands what it could not grasp before. That is the first sign of the shift. Then there is your energy. Pay attention to how you feel in moments that used to drain you. You may notice that certain things no longer affect you the way they once did. Conversations that used to pull you into doubt now feel easier to step away from. Situations that once caused stress no longer carry the same weight. It is not because those things have completely disappeared. It is because your alignment with them is changing. You are no longer in the same frequency. And when your internal alignment changes, your external experience begins to follow. This is where you will start to notice something else: distance. Not necessarily physical distance, but energetic distance. Certain people, environments, or patterns that once felt familiar may now feel slightly out of place. You may not fully understand why, but something inside you will begin to recognize that not everything can move forward with you into this next phase. This is not loss. This is alignment correcting itself. Because as your miracle approaches, anything that does not match its energy begins to separate naturally. You will not have to force it. You will not have to create conflict. You will simply begin to feel what belongs in your path and what does not. That clarity is part of the shift. And then there will be moments of confirmation. Small at first, almost easy to overlook if you are not paying attention. A conversation that aligns perfectly with something you were just thinking about. An unexpected opportunity that appears at just the right time. A message, a sign, a sudden realization that connects pieces of your situation in a way that feels too precise to be coincidence. Those are not random. Those are signals. They are the early evidence that what has been prepared is beginning to move into your reality. And the more you notice them, the more they will appear. Because awareness amplifies alignment. This is why your presence in this moment matters so much. Because the shift is not something that happens around you without your participation. It is something that unfolds with your awareness, your response, your willingness to stay connected to what you are sensing. There is also something else you may begin to feel: anticipation. Not anxiety, not uncertainty, but a quiet, steady sense that something is about to happen. The feeling that you cannot fully explain, but you cannot ignore either. It is not based on visible evidence. It is not coming from logic. It is coming from your spirit recognizing that movement has already begun. That feeling is real, and it is accurate. Because when something has already been set in motion, your awareness begins to catch up with it before your physical reality does. This is the space you are in right now. Between preparation and manifestation. Between knowing and seeing. Between sensing and receiving. And in this space, everything matters. How you respond. How you observe. How you trust what you are feeling. Because the shift will continue to build. What starts as subtle will become clear. What begins as internal will become visible. What feels like possibility will become reality. But it all begins here, in this moment where you choose to stay aware instead of distracted. Because what you are noticing now is only the beginning. The signals will become stronger. The confirmations will become clearer. The opportunities will become more defined. And the path forward will begin to reveal itself step by step. You do not need to force it. You do not need to chase it. You only need to remain aligned with it. Because the shift is not approaching you. It is already here. And from this point forward, everything you begin to notice will be guiding you closer to what has already been prepared for you. Type ISE the shift in the comments if you are beginning to recognize the changes happening around you. Blessing code 7777 is now activated over your awareness and alignment. There comes a moment in every divine process where preparation is no longer the focus and response becomes everything. That moment is where you are now. The door you have been waiting for is not something distant anymore. It is not something still being built or still being decided. It is opening. Quietly, steadily, undeniably opening. But here is the truth you must fully understand: an open door does not guarantee that you will walk through it. Because walking through requires a response. You have already come this far. You have remained present. You have listened. You have allowed your awareness to rise. You have begun to sense the shift. But now, something deeper is being asked of you. Not just attention, but action. Not just belief but movement. Not just awareness but agreement. Because every open door carries a question. And that question is simple: will you step forward, or will you hesitate? This is where many people struggle, even after everything has aligned in their favor. They recognize the opportunity, but they hesitate. They feel the shift, but they wait. They sense what is right, but they second-guess themselves. And in that hesitation, the moment begins to lose its clarity. You cannot afford that here, because what is opening for you requires a willing response. It may not look overwhelming at first. In fact, it may appear simple, almost too simple. A conversation you feel prompted to have. A decision you feel guided to make. A step you feel ready to take. It may not feel like a big moment on the surface, but it carries significance beyond what you can immediately see. That is how divine doors often work. They do not always appear dramatic. They appear precise. And precision requires trust. You are not being asked to understand everything before you move. You are being asked to trust what you already feel. To trust the clarity that is forming inside you. To trust that the same force that prepared this moment is also guiding you through it. Because hesitation is not always about fear. Sometimes it is about habit. A habit of waiting. The habit of overthinking. The habit of delaying until everything feels certain. But this moment is not designed for delay. It is designed for response. And your response does not have to be perfect. It does not have to be flawless. It does not have to come with complete certainty. It only needs to be willing. Because once you respond, everything else begins to unfold. The path reveals itself step by step. The clarity deepens. The confirmation strengthens. But none of that happens until you take that first step forward. This is where alignment becomes action. This is where awareness becomes movement. This is where everything that has been prepared begins to connect with your reality in a tangible way. And as you move, you will notice something powerful. The fear you thought you had will not hold the same weight anymore. The uncertainty you once felt will begin to dissolve. The hesitation that once slowed you down will lose its grip. Because action changes perception. When you move, you see differently. When you respond, you understand more. When you step forward, the path adjusts to meet you. And this is what you are being called into right now. Not to stand at the door and analyze it. Not to wait for another confirmation. Not to question whether this is the right moment. But to recognize that this is the moment. And to respond accordingly. Because the door is not opening randomly. It is opening because everything has aligned for you to walk through it now. And the longer you wait, the more you risk disconnecting from that alignment. Not because it disappeared, but because it shifted. And you are not meant to chase this moment. You are meant to meet it. Right here. Right now. So whatever you feel prompted to do next, do not ignore it. Whatever step feels clear to you, do not delay it. Whatever decision feels aligned, do not second-guess it. Because that is how you move forward. That is how you step into what has already been prepared. That is how you receive what has been waiting for you. The door is open. The path is ready. And your response is the final piece. Type "I step forward now" in the comments if you are ready to respond without hesitation. Blessing code 8080 is now activated over your decisions and actions. As you feel this door opening in your life, understand that every step you take in faith creates a path for someone else to follow. This message is not just reaching you, it is meant to reach those who are still waiting in darkness, searching for the same confirmation you have just received. When you release your support through Super Thanks or the PayPal link in the description, you are sowing into a harvest that brings light to souls on the edge of giving up. The Lord declares, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy," and your seed becomes part of that divine exchange, turning someone's despair into hope. I feel this clearly, and I speak it with purpose. I move now, I give now, I act now, because I know this moment carries eternal impact. Your giving becomes a river that carries this message further than you can see, touching lives you may never know. Do not wait for another sign. Step into this act of obedience now, and watch how heaven responds to your faith with increase, favor, and unexpected breakthroughs. There is a presence surrounding you in this moment, one that you may not see with your physical eyes, but your spirit can feel it if you pause long enough to become aware. This is not imagination. This is not emotion. This is divine protection moving into position as your breakthrough draws near. Because when something significant is about to enter your life, heaven does not leave you exposed. It assigns protection. It releases authority. It positions guardians over what hath been prepared for you. And this is where the voice of Archangel Michael enters your path, not as a distant symbol, not as a vague idea, but as a force of order, clarity, and protection that operates with precision. His presence does not arrive randomly. It arrives when something must be guarded, when something must be secured, when something must not be interfered with any longer. And right now that something is your breakthrough. Because what has been prepared for you has reached a point where interference is no longer permitted. The delays have served their purpose. The resistance has lost its hold. And now, protection is being established so that what is meant for you reaches you without disruption. This is why you may feel a shift in your sense of stability. There is a calm that is beginning to replace uncertainty. There is a steadiness that is forming where there was once hesitation. There is a quiet confidence rising within you, even if you cannot fully explain where it is coming from. That is not accidental. That is protection being activated. Because when divine protection surrounds you, it does not always appear as something dramatic. It appears as clarity, as strength, as the ability to remain grounded even when things around you are still adjusting. It appears as a sense that no matter what happens next, you are not unprepared for it. And this is where you must begin to trust what you are feeling. Because Archangel Michael does not operate in confusion. His presence cuts through confusion. It removes what is unclear. It reveals what matters. It sharpens your awareness so that you can move forward without being pulled in multiple directions. You may begin to notice that certain doubts are no longer as convincing as they once were. Thoughts that used to hold your attention now pass more quickly. Fears that once felt overwhelming now feel distant, as if they no longer have the same power over you. That is not something you forced. That is something being removed. Because protection is not only about guarding what is coming to you, it is also about removing what no longer belongs in your path. And this is where separation begins to take place. Not as loss, but as protection. You may find that certain connections begin to shift. Certain conversations no longer feel necessary. Certain influences that once affected your decisions now feel easier to step away from. This is not coincidence. This is alignment being protected. Because as your breakthrough approaches, anything that could disrupt it is being moved out of position. And you are being guided to recognize that without resistance, you do not need to confront everything. You do not need to explain every change. You only need to trust what is being revealed to you. Because protection does not always require action from you. Sometimes it requires awareness. The awareness to step back when something feels off. The awareness to move forward when something feels right. The awareness to trust your instincts without needing constant validation. This is how you stay aligned with the protection that is already in place. And as you remain aligned, something else begins to happen. Your path becomes clearer. Decisions that once felt complicated begin to simplify. Situations that once felt uncertain begin to resolve themselves without force. This is what happens when protection removes interference. You begin to move without resistance. And when you move without resistance, everything that has been prepared for you can reach you without delay. This is why this moment is so important. Because what is coming next is not just about receiving. It is about receiving under protection. Receiving in alignment. Receiving in a way that cannot be easily disrupted once it arrives. And that changes everything. Because a breakthrough that arrives without protection can be unstable. It can be influenced. It can be redirected. But a breakthrough that arrives with protection is secure. It is established. It is meant to remain. And that is what is being prepared for you right now. So do not doubt the stability you are beginning to feel. Do not question the clarity that is forming within you. Do not second-guess the shifts that are happening around you. Because all of it is part of the same process. Protection is in place. Alignment is active. And what is coming next will move into your life with a level of certainty that you have not experienced before. Because this time nothing will be able to interfere with it. Type "I am protected" in the comments if you trust that what is meant for you is now secured. Blessing code 1111 is now activated over your protection and breakthrough. There is a part of this journey that many people do not expect, and when it begins to happen, it can feel confusing if you do not understand its purpose. Because just as important as what is coming into your life is what must leave it. Just as necessary as receive is releasing. And just as powerful as elevation's separation. You are stepping into a higher level of alignment, and with that alignment comes a natural shift. Not forced, not dramatic, not chaotic, but undeniable. You may already be feeling it. A subtle distance forming between you and certain things that once felt normal. A quiet awareness that not everything around you can move forward with you into what is coming next. This is not loss. This is preparation. Because elevation does not simply add more to your life. It refines your life. It removes what no longer fits so that what is meant for you has the space to fully enter. And this is where many people struggle, because letting go does not always feel easy. It does not always feel comfortable. Sometimes it feels like uncertainty. Sometimes it feels like stepping away from what is familiar without knowing exactly what is ahead. But you must understand what feels familiar is not always what is aligned. There are connections, habits, thoughts, and patterns that were part of your life for a reason during a certain time. They served a purpose. They taught you something. They helped shape who you are now. But their purpose was never meant to be permanent. And as you step into this new phase, you are being shown, very clearly, what can no longer remain. This may show up in ways that are subtle at first. You may notice that certain conversations no longer feel the same. What once felt engaging now feels draining. What once felt comfortable now feels forced. You may find yourself pulling back without fully understanding why, sensing that something is no longer aligned even if nothing obvious has changed on the surface. That feeling is not confusion. That feeling is clarity. Because when your alignment shifts, your tolerance for what does not match that alignment shifts as well. You begin to recognize what supports your growth and what slows it down. You begin to see what brings you forward and what keeps you in place. And this is where the decision becomes yours. Because separation is not always automatic. Sometimes it requires your agreement. Sometimes it requires you to choose to step back, to release, to let go of what you have been holding onto simply because it was familiar. You are not being asked to do this out of fear. You are being guided to do this out of awareness. Because what is coming into your life cannot fully arrive if you are still holding on to what belongs to your past alignment. There is also something deeper happening within you. It is not just external separation. It is internal release. Old patterns of thinking that once felt natural may now feel limiting. Doubts that once held your attention may now feel out of place. Habits that once defined your routine may begin to lose their hold on you. This is not something you are forcing. This is something you are outgrowing. And growth always requires space. Because you cannot step into a new level while carrying the weight of the old one. You cannot fully receive what is prepared for you if your energy is still tied to what no longer serves you. This is why this phase is necessary. It clears the path. It creates the space. It allows what is meant for you to enter without resistance. And even though it may feel uncertain at times, there is something you must hold on to. You are not losing anything that is truly meant for you. What is aligned with your next level will remain. What is meant to continue with you will adjust and grow with you. But what cannot align with where you are going will naturally fall away. And that is not something to resist. That is something to trust. Because every release you allow now is making room for something greater to take its place. Every step back from what no longer aligns is a step forward into what does. Every moment of letting go is a moment of making space for what has already been prepared. And soon, you will begin to see exactly why this separation had to happen. Because what is coming next will require clarity. It will require focus. It will require that you are not divided between what was and what is about to be. And you are being prepared for that now. So do not hold on to what feels like it is slipping away. Do not try to force things to remain the same. Do not question the distance you are beginning to feel. Because this is not the end of something valuable. This is the beginning of something aligned. And as you allow this process to unfold, you will step forward with a level of clarity and readiness that will make everything that follows feel natural, not forced. Because elevation is not about adding more weight to your life. It is about removing everything that no longer belongs, so you can rise without resistance. Type ILET GO and rise in the comments if you are ready to release what no longer aligns with your next level. Blessing code 1010 is now activated over your transformation and elevation. There is a moment that is unlike any other, a moment that cannot be mistaken once it arrives, a moment where everything that once felt distant suddenly becomes undeniable. That moment is not approaching slowly anymore. It is not something you have to keep imagining or hoping for. It is drawing closer with certainty, with precision, with a clarity that will leave no room for doubt. This is the moment of arrival when what was once unseen becomes real. You have waited for this in ways you may not have even fully acknowledged. You carried it quietly, sometimes speaking about it, sometimes holding it deep within yourself where no one else could see. There were days when you felt strong in your belief, and there were days when you questioned whether it would ever truly happen. But even in your uncertainty, something within you never fully let go. That was not accidental. Because what is meant for you leaves an imprint within you long before it arrives. It stays with you, even when you try to move past it. It returns to your thoughts, even when you try to ignore it. It lingers in your awareness, not as pressure, but as a quiet reminder that something is still unfolding. And now, that unfolding is reaching completion. The moment of arrival does not always come with a dramatic announcement. It does not always appear in the exact way you imagined it would. But when it comes, there is something unmistakable about it. A sense of recognition that moves through you instantly. A clarity that removes all doubt. A feeling that says, without needing confirmation from anyone else, this is it. You will feel it. Not just in your mind, but in your entire being. Because when something that has been aligned in the spiritual realm enters your physical reality, it carries a presence with it. It carries a certainty that cannot be manufactured or forced. It carries a weight of truth that settles within you in a way that feels natural, not overwhelming. This is what you are stepping into. And when it arrives, you may notice something unexpected. Everything that once felt unclear will begin to connect. Moments from your past that did not make sense at the time will suddenly reveal their purpose. Delays that once frustrated you will show you why they were necessary. Decisions you made, even the ones you questioned, will align with the path that led you here. Nothing will feel wasted. Nothing will feel random. Everything will feel like it was leading to this point. This is the clarity that comes with arrival. But there is something else you must understand about this moment. Receiving is not passive. Even when something arrives, you must still choose to step into it fully. You must choose to accept it, to embrace it, to move with it rather than standing still and questioning whether it is truly meant for you. Because sometimes, even at the moment of arrival, doubt can try to reappear. It may sound like hesitation. It may feel like uncertainty. It may try to make you question whether this is real, whether it will last, whether you are ready for it. But this is where everything you have learned up to this point becomes important. Because you are no longer the person who would hesitate the way you once did. You are not the same person who questioned every step. You are not the same person who needed constant reassurance before moving forward. You have been prepared for this. Every delay strengthened your awareness. Every challenge refined your understanding. Every moment of waiting built your readiness to receive without fear. And now, that readiness meets reality. This is why the moment of arrival is so powerful. Because it is not just about what comes into your life. It is about who you have become by the time it arrives. You are able to recognize it. You are able to accept it. You are able to move with it confidently. And as you do, something else begins to happen. Stability. What arrives will not feel temporary. You will not feel uncertain. You will feel established. Because what hath been prepared for you was not meant to come and go. It was meant to remain. It was meant to build. It was meant to become part of your life in a way that continues to grow beyond this moment. And this is where everything changes. Because once the arrival happens, you are no longer waiting. You are no longer anticipating. You are living within what you once hoped for. And that shift from waiting to living is what transforms everything. So when the moment comes, do not hold back. Do not question it. Do not step away from it. Step into it fully. Receive it completely. Move with it confidently. Because this is not something you created. This is something that was prepared for you. And now it is yours to experience. Type "I receive my moment" in the comments if you are ready to fully step into what is arriving for you. Blessing code 9091 is now activated over your manifestation and fulfillment. Now you stand at the edge of something that cannot be repeated in the same way again. This is not just another moment. This is not just another message. This is not just another opportunity that will circle back around if ignored. This is a window, and that window is open right now. Everything you have heard, everything you have felt, everything that has been building within you has been leading to this final call. Not a call of pressure, not a call of fear, but a call of clarity. A moment where you are no longer uncertain about what is happening. A moment where you understand that something real is unfolding, something that requires your full awareness, your full presence, and your full willingness to step into it. Because this is where many people miss what was meant for them. Not at the beginning, not during the preparation, but at the final moment, when everything is ready, when everything is aligned, when everything is in place, and all that is required is a simple but powerful decision. To respond, to receive, to step forward without hesitation. This is that moment for you, and you can feel it. There is something inside you that knows this is different. Something that recognizes that this is not just information you are hearing, but a moment you are standing in. A moment that carries weight. A moment that carries movement. A moment that carries consequence, not in a negative way, but in a way that determines what happens next. Because what you do now matters. Not tomorrow. Not later. Now. This is the difference between those who experience transformation and those who remain in cycles of waiting. It is not that one is more deserving than the other. It is that one chooses to respond when the moment arrives, and the other hesitates until the moment shifts. And you are not here to hesitate. You have already come too far for that. You have already moved through the confusion, the delay, the uncertainty. You have already aligned yourself with something greater than where you started. And now, the only thing left is your response. This is where you decide that you will not let this moment pass quietly. This is where you decide that you will not return to the same patterns of delay. This is where you decide that what has been prepared for you will not be overlooked. Because the window is open, but it is not open forever. And that is not meant to create fear. It is meant to create focus. Because when you understand that a moment is temporary, you treat it differently. You pay attention. You stay present. You respond with intention instead of postponement. And that is exactly what is required here. You are not being asked to do something complicated. You are not being asked to figure everything out. You are simply being asked to remain aligned with what you already feel is right. To trust the clarity that has been building within you. To move forward without stepping back into doubt. Because everything that needed to be prepared is prepared. Everything that needed to be aligned is aligned. Everything that needed to be revealed had been revealed. And now, everything depends on what you do with it. So do not close this moment casually. Do not walk away from it without acknowledging what it has stirred within you. Do not treat it as something you will revisit later. Because later is not where this moment exists. This moment exists now. And now is where everything begins to change. So take a breath. Feel the clarity. Recognize the alignment. And make the decision to step fully into what has been placed before you. Because this is not just a message you heard. This is a moment you answered. Type "I accept this moment" in the comments if you are choosing to respond with full awareness and intention. Blessing code 2222 is now activated over your life, sealing this moment of alignment and breakthrough. As this final moment settles into your spirit, understand this truth: what has been spoken here is not meant to stop with you. It is meant to multiply through you. Every soul still searching, every heart still waiting, every life standing on the edge of their own breakthrough is connected to this message reaching further. When you release your seed through Super Thanks with a PayPal link in the description, you are not giving to a channel. You are sowing into a field where light breaks through darkness. The Lord declares, "Cast your bread upon the waters, and after many days it will return to you." And this is your moment to act on that living promise. I step forward now. I release what I can, because I know this is not ordinary giving. This is alignment with something divine. Your seed becomes fire. Your seed becomes oil. Your seed becomes a voice reaching someone who is about to give up. Do not wait. Do not hesitate. Respond now in obedience, and watch how heaven answers you with overflow, favor, and doors you could not have opened on your own.